Okay guys, so this is going to be going into my 5th week learning Japanese through the M.I.A approach. I'm just going to preface this by saying that I'm not in any way trying to teach Japanese. I will link some videos from some other YouTubers which I'd highly recommend checking out. I'm going to be talking about quite a lot of different things in this video, so I'm going to put timestamps in the bottom, so if there's something you're interested in, just go straight to that. Or you can just watch through the whole thing. Hopefully it's not going to be too long. We'll see how much I ramble. I have got notes on this, so if you see me looking over there, that's what I'm doing. I'm checking my notes, just to try and keep me on track. So yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to teach Japanese. This is not what this is for. This is kind of my diary of my Japanese progress. That being said, if you do find tips from what I say, do use them. Obviously check with other people first. And on the flip side of that, if you have pointers, please leave them in the comments. I'll try and read everything. So a bit of my my background of my Japanese journey so far. So about 2 years ago, I was invited to go to Japan to compete because I do martial arts, at which point I had like 6 months, and I thought, yeah, I can get fluent in Japanese in 6 months. I was a bit naive. So I started off using Rosetta Stone, because Rosetta Stone is the thing that teaches you languages. It didn't. After about a month, I quit because I realised that it wasn't working. It felt like it was working, but I could see the problems that were in it. So I resorted to YouTube, and I found a lot of people recommending Genki. So I got Genki and started working through that. About a month before the actual trip to Japan, I realised that I couldn't get fluent in Japanese in 6 months. So I would just wing it, try and learn some useful phrases and try and get by. So obviously I went to Japan. My Japanese was terrible because I'd only done like a couple chapters of Genki. So I was using fake Japanese. It kind of worked. I did have a really good time. But yeah, so my time in Japan ended, and I realised that I actually really liked learning Japanese. So I wanted to learn it properly. So I thought I'd go to university and study it. The problem was I didn't have A levels. In the UK, you have like up to high school, year 11, and then you do college for 2 years, and then you go on to university. So we split it up. I didn't do that middle step. I dropped out early, so I had to do that. So I stopped learning Japanese for about a year, so I could get that qualification, so I could then apply to go to university to do Japanese. So at the point where I knew I'd got into university and I knew I was going, I decided I'd heard about RTK, so I went through RTK for the first time. I did okay. I did traditional RTK, so just the keyword, and then I'd write out the kanji every time. However, I stopped before any of them got to like a really mature stage. So once I got to university, I started like losing my kanji ability quite quickly. So I guess that leads me to where I am now. I'm 6 months into studying Japanese at university, which is 3/4 of the way through the academic year. And yeah, so there's a bit of a weird thing that happens. There's like an illusion. They're giving you Japanese and you understand it, and it's great. So like, hopefully I'll put a video up now. There's a long passage, well, a relatively long passage in Japanese, and I understood a good 90% of it. There's only a few things I didn't understand, but I could look them up in a dictionary, and then I understood 100% comprehension of that passage. But then when I'm actually looking at like actual Japanese for Japanese people, even though this is relatively easy, I would assume, I've got like 10% comprehension of that. Maybe that's just a guess. I've only like really briefly looked through the first 100 pages just to see how much I could understand. Similar with watching TV shows, if I have the subtitles on, I can get about 10%. But if there's no subtitles, there's like no comprehension at all. Like even words that I know, I barely can't get. So one thing I'd like to say is I'm not the worst student in Japanese in the university. I'm not going to say I'm the best, but I do have quite high test scores. First semester in my 1A class, I got an A+. In reading and writing, I'd say I'm consistently one of the top people in the class. There's only a couple of people that get the same marks as me. It's very rare that people get higher than me. I do put that down to doing RTK. Yeah, I was starting to get disillusioned with university, and people would ask me for like advice, and I'd say RTK, and they'd laugh at me. So I kind of jokingly said, I bet that I could learn how to write all 2,200 Joyo kanji and RTK 3 as well in 100 days. So I've started doing that. So because I'm doing RTK again, I thought it was a good time to have a look at like M.I.A. or like what was AJAP. So one of the reasons why this really stood out to me was I've got a couple of non-native English speaking friends here, and speaking to them, none of them learn English by doing grammar exercises. They all learned it through immersion, which kind of clicked. I was like, well, that makes sense. And it's kind of what like MattvsJapan saying with like the M.I.A. stuff. So I thought to give that a crack. So like I said, I'm redoing RTK. I'm gonna do RTK 3 this time. I didn't do that the first time. I know Matt recommends just doing lazy kanji now, and like the only like the top 1,000 most common. But I kind of really love kanji, so I know I'm gonna have to redo it again at some point because my retention rate is gonna drop. I'll probably do that after fluency, but I am still gonna do like a kind of like a hybrid traditional approach. So I'm kind of doing, it's a pre-made deck, but I'm still writing out every kanji. So I'm doing 30 a day, hopefully to get to 3,100 days. I have kind of already fucked up. For some reason one day I did 10. I don't know how that happened. It just did, but I'm rolling with it. So I'm 28 days in, or on 29th day, so I'm up to 840 kanji. The other thing I'm doing while I'm doing RTK is obviously I'm trying to immerse as much as possible. So with the active immersion, I'm not doing as much as I would like to be doing. However, I'm doing like an hour or so a day. But when I'm doing my RTK reps, I'm doing like semi-active immersion. So I split screen it, so I've got the show on in the background and I'm doing my RTK reps. So I am kind of doing both. But passive immersion, I'm pretty much doing all the time. I've always got my headphones in, unless I can't for some reason. Obviously I've got like a shower speaker, so I can listen to it in the shower. So yeah, I'm not getting a great deal from my immersion at the moment, but I am slowly starting to be able to pick out things more. I've learned a couple of words just through the passive immersion. I'm like, oh fuck, I know what that means. I'll look it up on my dictionary and I'm like, yep, that is what I thought it meant. So I'm also having a brief skim through Tae Kim. I'm not getting every sentence, but I'm just not trying to do that yet. I'm just trying to have a quick brief, so when I get to that point when I am doing it, I'll understand it a bit better, so it'll be a second time through. I've also seen another few videos, I'll try and link them as well, where people have recommended the N5 Tango book. And then I got in touch with Nukemarine and got his N5 Tango Deck. So I'm slowly working through that as well. Again, I'm not taking that too seriously because I'm not at that point yet, but I'm doing it on the side quite slowly. I've also started doing the Core 2K deck as a supplement to the Tango. So I'm not worrying if I don't know that stuff, it's just more additional, more input kind of thing. So I'm trying to get used to Anki and some of the add-ons and stuff. So I've got like the Japanese support add-on, trying to figure out how to use that properly. I've messed around with a bit of Subster SRS, so I've made a couple of Anki decks. Not that I've gone through them, just so I get used to actually making them and making sure they're all formatted right. One problem I will say with Anki is it's sometimes too good. So I use Anki to practice my kanji for my uni classes. But if you make a mistake in Anki, you learn the mistakes. So when I lose marks, it's usually not because I've forgotten something, it's because I've been tired and made a spelling mistake in Anki and then learned the spelling mistake. Which goes back to something I did mention before. One problem I do have with uni, which kind of is against the M.I.A. approach, is they do force you to output quite a lot. So, for example, like my assessment for this semester, I've got to have like a 7-minute conversation in Japanese, which obviously people know outputting too soon can cause bad habits. I may edit some things in that I've forgotten to mention. I don't think I have. So I'm just going to continue doing RTK. That's going to take me another couple months, so I'll probably wait until I've done those months because there's no point updating you again before then. And I'll probably leave it a month or two until the point where I've started going through the Tango decks a bit more, until I actually have something to say about it. So I'll probably see you in about 3 months. I'll update you with my progress then. Okay. Cheerio.